do you think work-life balance exists? And if so, what does that look like? My friend, these are questions you need to look at in the face and answer intentionally so that you can live a life of purpose and meaning. To answer the question, let's take a look at where that phrase even came from. No one really ever uttered that phrase until the 1980s. The origin of work-life balance was actually presented to women who had been in the workforce for a couple of decades and were now being offered by generous employers the opportunity to not work more than 40 hours a week or so they could go home and they could do the things that needed to happen there at home, i.e. work. So they could work here and they could work there. And guys, you really can have it all. You can have work and a career and you can have life and this thing that happens at home, and now it's all balanced. And women, you can have it all, and gentlemen, don't worry, they're not going to leave you. They're doing all of it. That is where the term work-life balance even began. And when you see it in its context, it almost seems ridiculous. When you examine what work-life balance means for you, we really have to be intentional. And I like to look at a few different things. Number one, what is life? What is the life that you want? What is it that you want to create? Who do you want to be? How do you want to live? What are the things that you want to do? What do you want your family to look like? What do you want your career to look like? What would you like to accomplish? See, life begins at conception. And not just the conception of a baby. Life begins in our world when we can begin to conceive and to imagine of something that we might want. That is the place where work-life balance or a life of purpose should be determined. Why? Because if you leave it up to anyone else to tell you what it is that you should be doing, they're going to tell you lots of things, and all of those things are going to benefit not you, definitely them, right? So coming up with a vision and knowing what it is that you want is the beginning of this. And so I can't determine that for you. He can't determine that for you. She can't determine that for you. You get to determine that for you. And I would ask you those questions. What is it that you value? What is it that you want? How do you want to live? What do you want your family to look like? Who do you want to be? What would you like to do? What would you like to have? And so in all of that, you're going to find the essence of you and your desires. And there is nothing wrong with having that. And unless you have that, as a matter of fact, I believe you won't have proper motive to do great things. That's life. If you're loving what you're hearing here, go check out what's going on at GoSellAnywhere.com. That is the home of the Sell Anywhere Mindset Mastery. It is a super inexpensive coaching program where we're able to be together. It's just $82 per month if you pay annually, or $97 a month if you pay month to month. A lot of people are getting out of coaching because they can't afford it anymore. The economy's gone a little bit wonky, and, they had to get rid of it. I would tell you this: don't go alone. Join me. And again, if the stuff that you're hearing is something that excites you, I want to invite you into the most powerful group of people that you will ever be a part of. The Sell Anywhere Mindset Mastery can be found at GoSellAnywhere.com. It's in the links and the notes. We will see you there. Now let's talk about the work side of it. What is work? For a lot of people, work is a place they show up to, but that can't be true. For other people, work is something to be done, maybe even to be avoided. And sadly, for the case of most of us, that's exactly what it is. Scientifically, the definition of work is to move an object from one place to another. Unless something moves from here to here, no work is done. If you were to apply that definition to what it is that you do on a daily basis, I wonder how much of that we could actually call work. So then, if we're looking at work, really work should be considered moving an object from here to here to here to here. Well, where's here? This is the life you decide you want. So if you decide you want this life, the work that you should be doing should be creating that life. Now, I'm going to bring you into the context of the actual question itself. I got the question from a client recently who was having difficulty because he and his wife both have careers. They have children, and one of the careers is changing. It's going through difficulties. There's some interesting economic adjustments that are happening across the nation, and he's really kind of spinning his wheels, trying to grab hold and create what it is that he needs to create so they can build the life they want. In that, they have all of these other processes going. They have soccer and karate and guitar and family dinners and church and like all of these activities on top of all of the things that happen at his workplace and all of the things that happen at her workplace and all of the things that are happening as they're combining efforts together, and you have a lot of competing priorities. And so looking at that scenario, there probably isn't a whole lot of work-life balance. I'm going to use a term that I've heard recently, by the way, from this point on, that I really like. I don't know who originated this one, but it's work-life blend. Work-life blend. At what point and in what way would you like your work and your life to blend? How do you want your work to look? How do you want your life to work? And how can that work together? And if we have other people in our life, how can we take the complexities of your agenda, their agenda, the kids' agenda, and blend them together in a way to where these agendas aren't necessarily competing? That is the question for work-life blend. And so that's where we're going to look in. And I'm going to tell you what it is that I've done, some of the things that I've helped other people to do. And my hope is not necessarily to say, hey, you need to do this, but really maybe to give another path. Maybe to give an alternative to the mythology that was created in the 80s so that we could employ more people. I think there's a better way. So when I think of work-life blend, I think of how can I have the life I want through the work that I want and create something that's valuable and meaningful to me that allows me to create a legacy. Now, that's my definition, but what's yours? What would a life of success look like from you? It's really interesting that once we actually begin to look at what we say success is, we can begin to reverse engineer that. We could define that as how we spend time together. We could define that as how much wealth we build up for this generation or for the next, or we could define that as what kind of impact we have on the planet. And I really think that we all get to have a different version of that. It's so much easier to be enthusiastic and passionate and in love with a direction that's uniquely yours as opposed to chasing what someone else says is the way, don't you think? And that's one of the reasons why I want to help empower you to say, well, what is it for me? What is that for me? I believe that if you have a family, one of the best things you can do is to define that for yourself and to allow your spouse to define that and to allow your children to define that and to find a way to where you can orchestrate that into the same plan. I really, really, really am thankful for people who have sacrificed and done things so that others could go beyond where they were at. But I don't think that is necessarily, I don't know that that's best, at least not in today's scenario. I like the idea that every one of us gets to live our purpose, a meaningful life. We get to live into our dreams. And that doesn't mean that one of us has to get walked on to do that. That in the place of love, we all win. And when we all win, we all make each other better. We're all freeing each other rather than saying, well, I'll just sacrifice so that you can have, which was, I think, really the mindset of my parents and their generation. A lot of people now, it seems like, think the opposite of like, oh, I'm going to have everything and forget about kids. But what if we could blend that together? And what if we could say, I'm going to live a life of meaning. You get to live a life of meaning. We all get to live a life of meaning, right? I guess that's the old car. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But we can do this together. And so here is what I would suggest. Number one, find meaningful work. Find work that you could do without getting tired. Find work that you can do that feels good to you, where you're serving the people that you love to serve in a way that you're gifted and talented to do it, that allows you to feel good about what you're doing. Do that. I'm a big believer in vocational purpose. Do it. If you're fortunate enough to have found your calling, do that thing that you can't not do. If you're still looking for your calling, don't stop looking. You deserve to find it. All of us deserve to feel that. Being a homemaker, by the way, huge, important, massively important thing that I think should be respected in any society. Unfortunately, I don't think that it really is these days. But what is it that you want? What is it that your spouse wants? And together, we can actually say, together we want this thing. Well, let's plan around the thing that we want together, where neither one of us gets abused or put down or pushed away or shut down. Now, children, I really do feel like a lot of us have lived almost like that mindset of sacrifice of like, I will die so they can live. While that is admirable, I don't know that is really the most admirable, because eventually your children don't necessarily do what you tell them to do. They do what you give them permission to do. And their permission comes by looking at what it is that you are setting as the example. So do the things you wish to give your children permission to do. Do that. Live together, blend together. Find good work. Take rest often. Don't forget to live. And I would say, if you're planning out your week, months, years, plan the things that you want before you plan the things that you have to do. Plan it together. Work-life balance, work-life blend is what you decide that it means. If you love to work 15 hours a day and that's what you feel like is your calling, do that. If you have children and they need you in their lives, respect that season and find ways to show up with impact and meaning. If you're married, newly married, or you're at a pivotal point where something is going on with someone's health, understand the season you're in and be a good investor. Invest properly according to the season of life. I believe if we view life as more of a blend, we can forget about separating life and work, and we can just live a life that works. Blend it. Blend it, blend it. Let's stop trying to balance it.